community chat. My name is Bex Hayhoe. I'm the Director of United to End Homelessness with Orange County United Way, and I'm really excited to continue our conversations around homelessness and COVID-19 in Orange County. Last week, we chatted with Jason Austin from the County of Orange, who gave us an update on Project Room Key, Project Home Key, and Project Toolbell. If you missed it, you can watch it on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. Today, we're going to be looking at how different cities have responded to COVID-19 amongst their own local homelessness communities. And I'm really excited to be joined by a powerhouse of incredible women in our community. So today, we are joined by Terri, the Homeless Services Manager for the City of Santa Ana. We're also joined by Sandra Sagert, the Community Preservation and Licensing Manager for the City of Anaheim, and Kellee Fritzal, the Deputy Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Fullerton. So welcome, a warm welcome to each of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're just going to dive straight in. The first question is going to be, what has your city done to address COVID-19 amongst your homeless population? And Kellee, we will start with you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. So the City of Fullerton has been working with multiple service providers prior to COVID-19, and we've actually been working much greater with them. So when the stay-at-home order was issued by the governor, he activated the National Guard, which caused us to have to shut down our cold weather armory, and we did not want, close to 100 people going back in the streets and being unsafe. So the city allowed one of our community centers to become a temporary shelter. We actually just closed it on Thursday. So working with Mercy House, we were able to transfer all of the homeless clients from the armory over to Independence Park. And I think it really helped us, and it kept accepting clients into Independence Park, and it really has covered the county. We've had almost every city represented at our shelter. So we also gathered 3 hand washing machines stations and put them at our transportation center, which is a very large homeless encampment. So we, provided the hand washing stations. We actually provided PPE to the homeless, face masks. We worked with CityNet to do a lot of outreach on trying to teach the homeless how not to catch the virus and to take care and simple protections. So our city's pilot safe parking program was actually ending about the same time. So we've now extended that through December 31st, and it was a safe location for our residents in cars, and it's also where we can do case management directly and make sure that we're trying to keep all of our homeless clients safe during this time. And with Project Room Key being held by Illumination Foundation, we actually worked with the City of La Habra and CityNet to start our own Project Room Key here in Fullerton at one of our local motels. And really just trying to do a lot of outreach and get those that are most vulnerable into the hotels. So we have about 15 people currently, and more coming in every day. We just started it at the beginning of the month. So we were excited to try to do anything and everything we can to be unique and help our clients. But as many of you may know, Illumination Foundation was about to start building a navigation center, and we actually sped that up. So I'll talk about that later, but thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kellee. It sounds like Fullerton has been sort of really approaching it from kind of the sanitation level through to extending the safe parking, opening up, your own hotel through Project Room Key. It sounds like there's been some really innovative things that have happened in your community. Sandra, I would love to hear what has Anaheim been up to?
Great, thank you. Thank you, Bex, Addie, Amy, all you guys for inviting us here. And Fullerton and our cities, we're just doing a tremendous amount of work. So I just appreciate my colleagues being on the call as well. One of the unique things that Anaheim did prior to COVID was we created a position at our Emergency Operations Center for homeless. So we have a homeless liaison, who's myself, actually created a position at the EOC. It was really more for if there was a disaster, like a fire breaks out at an abandoned building or a bridge or any collapsing where we know there's tends to be homeless population. We did not anticipate a pandemic, but thank goodness we already had that position available because we did get governor's orders, we got trailers, funding, and so we had to act quickly, and being at the EOC was amazing. So we obviously already had 2 shelters up, which was great for us. So we immediately started working with them on the social distancing, doing thermal checks, making sure we had isolation trailers at both shelters. More for pre-entry, so people coming in that still want to get into the shelters, we actually had some isolation trailers just to make sure they're healthy, and if not, we actually had them protected, which was great. We limited some access to smaller group areas where we had some common areas at our shelters to help protect the groups there, and extra PPEs there. We also had our fire department go there very regularly, which was tremendous asset for us, and also a partnership for the shelter operators. We also did the Project Room Key. We enacted a contract with CityNet and Motel 6 in our resort area, and they were fabulous. We had 60 rooms, plus we had 5 trailers hooked up, and I did post a picture from there that you guys can see, and we had people of high risk there, so a lot of our elderly are people with high risk. We had a gentleman there that was waiting for heart surgery, and he was so appreciative that he was there in nice preparation and less stressful environment. We actually had a female that was pregnant and had a baby there, so there was a lot of great things happening there, and it was actually highlighted in the State Department newsletter, which was fantastic. We also took one of our Salvation Army thrift stores and turned that into an emergency shelter real quick for females, because that seemed to be our greatest need. So we had that up and running for a few months, and we were already in the middle of an expansion project at our current shelter at Salvation Army for an additional 101 beds, and that was completed in June, so that helped. On top of us having mobile medical units going to all these different locations, just really making sure everybody's staying healthy. And we just had a lot of great feedback because these people couldn't stay safer at home. They don't have a home. And so we were trying to make them feel at home where they were at. And they were just very appreciative that we were caring for them for that. So that was the great work that we were doing during that time. And we want to thank the state for the funding and the trailers. That was tremendous, quick work that we were able to utilize quickly with our staff and all of our agencies. So I wanted to say thank you out there for that.
Thank you so much for that overview. Anaheim has been very busy as well. That was incredible. I think that probably most people who've tuned in, they've been aware of sort of some of the broader efforts around the county, but maybe haven't heard specifically what different cities have been doing. So thank you so much for that overview of everything that Anaheim's been doing. Terri, we're going to turn to you. We would love to hear how Santa Ana has been responding to COVID-19 amongst the homeless population there. We've got to get you off. There you go.
Thanks for having me. Similarly to Anaheim, we activated our EOC immediately and started putting in place all of the CDC guidelines and recommendations that were coming down. We initially turned to our Link shelter, which is the city's shelter, to make sure that we could do everything possible to keep our guests safe with the temperature taking and the social distancing. Fortunately, our Link shelter is very large, and we were able to thin the shelter out and spread people around. We were able to put 32 of our guests from the Link into Project Room Key, and we also, like Anaheim, received some trailers from the state of California. And we placed 15 of those trailers right in the parking lot outside of the Link. And we're able to put 22 individuals and or families into those trailers. That has been a huge benefit for those guests that are there. We have 2 outreach teams in Santa Ana. We have CityNet, who is a contracted outreach team, as well as our own quality of life team, which we refer to as COLT, which is a multidisciplinary team. Both of those teams continued as usual, if not increasing their wonderful efforts and working to get individuals off the streets and into our shelters as well. 90 individuals were placed right off of the streets by our CityNet and COLT teams into Project Room Key. And so we're very proud of that. And the city is also working very closely with United Way with their Welcome Home OC program, and taking referrals from both Mercy House and CityNet. We have 106 vouchers that we have contributed to this cause. 36 of them are designated straight from Project Roomkey. So many of those individuals that were taken right out of the link will be able to go out and locate and be housed with permanent housing. So those are some of the highlights, and I can touch on some other things with some of the next questions.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Terri. It really is remarkable to me to hear how each community in our county has been able to pivot and to adapt and to respond to addressing homelessness. And in particular, I know that Anaheim and Santa Ana had access to those trailers from the state, and to hear how each of your cities was able to use those to help provide additional support and shelter for people in our community. We did have, we collect questions in advance of these discussions, and one question that we did have that was asked quite frequently was just around, are we starting to see an increase in homelessness because of COVID? So Sandra, I'll go to you first of all with this one. Have you found in Anaheim kind of an access to the emergency shelters that you have? Has there been an increase, and do you have any provisional data as to how homelessness might be being impacted by COVID?
Great, thank you. And that was a great overview too, Terri, from your city. You guys are doing fantastic over there. We don't have a whole lot of data right now. I can tell you our shelters occupancy has kind of been remaining stable. So we haven't seen an increase on the unsheltered and the street homeless, but I can tell you we are starting to see people that are falling into homelessness. And so what we're trying to do in our city is catch them, prevent them from going into homelessness. So we started a senior safety net program for our elderly who are on fixed income. And so if they're being impacted with rent increases or anything like that, or jobs, we have a program where we're giving out rental assistance there. We have small business loans because we have a lot of small businesses in Anaheim that are resident run and owned. So we're trying to help them out there with small business loans, as well as a lot of other rental assistance citywide, and rental protection on a lot of our renters out there that are just really struggling, and we're paycheck to paycheck. So we've invested millions of dollars. We've gotten some CARES Act money from the feds and states. So thanks again. That is helping tremendously. When we get a flow of funding, we're using every dollar we can. So we are starting to capture that data from those individuals that are filing, needing assistance now for 3-4 months rent. We're starting to see that now really starting to impact a lot of our residents. So we're going to continue to do that through the end of the year, and possibly through the beginning of next year.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I know that the City of Anaheim did partner with us on our homelessness prevention program. And so we're really very thankful for how we've been able to partner together and work on that. And I was just pulling up the data, the latest data, and I think it's just under 1,400 households that we've been able to help in Anaheim with some homelessness prevention assistance together. So thank you for that partnership, so we're able to help the residents in your community. Terri, I'll go to you next. What's been happening in Santa Ana? Are you seeing an increase in homelessness due to COVID?
No, we don't have any particular data on that, but yes, we are seeing some increases in homelessness. Specifically, I think there's a lot going on with, we are receiving some releases of jail inmates into the city, and the shelters that previously had higher numbers of individuals for COVID testing and COVID reasons. Maybe those individuals are out on the streets now. But we're not seeing anything, we're not seeing as many individuals who have been evicted from their homes coming into the shelter. We, like Anaheim, had received a fair amount of CARES Act funding, and we have put funding into those eviction prevention ability for individuals to be able to access, as well as the business grants and all of that. So hopefully with all of those additional funds that are coming down, it'll keep the people housed. However, we do have the shelter there for individuals that do need them.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I know I've had a lot of emails populating in my inbox around the work that Santa Ana has been doing around homelessness prevention, and how you're able to open up funding assistance to your residents. And so it's been great to see that emphasis both on helping people who are currently homeless and the impact of COVID, and then also making sure that we can try to keep as many people in their homes as possible. Kellee, I'll just check in with you and see if you've had any information from Fullerton.
Well, very similar to both Santa Ana and Anaheim, we did start a rental assistance program, and we've seen such a great need. So I think we're concerned that we'll see it once the eviction moratorium is lifted. And so that, I think next month, we're going to have a whole different set of numbers if it's not continued.
Okay. So I'm curious around how the wider community has responded to the efforts that have been happening in your community. So Sandra, I'd love to hear from you. What's it been like in Anaheim as you've sort of, done some different things during COVID?
I think overall it's been very positive. I think we still, and this is across the board, I think there still needs to be a lot more education and awareness. When it first hit, people were wanting to make sure that our homeless population on the streets had their PPEs that they needed, and they were trying to get off the street into our shelter. So there was a lot of that concern, which I think is great. And so overall, when we educate and let them know everything we're doing, I think it really opens their eyes. And then it turns the conversation to, well, how can I help? And so our website, which is another link we provided, is for anybody who wants to be involved, whether you're a service provider or somebody who's homeless, or you're a developer, and what you can do to help in our community. So we've seen some positive impacts. I was just on a call earlier this morning, and a lot of our internal departments are starting to notice a decrease out on the streets in our public spaces and stuff. And I think a lot of that has to do with all the work that we've been doing to really protect those individuals and get them into some type of shelter or housing. As far as stuff we've been doing, that's real long-lasting changes. I think overall our partnerships and collaboration is going to be the key. The more partners we bring to the table and everybody jumps in and helps, the bigger change we're going to have and the longer lasting change we're going to have. And housing is going to be the key. And the more housing projects we put up, we have El Verano coming online for our seniors that are homeless, which is huge. That's an aging group that we see. We have at-risk youth housing coming online, which is another growing population we're seeing. And then we have our big Center of Hope that's going to be a permanent shelter and have permanent supportive housing on site, which is rare. And that's something that we've been working hard and long for, and we're going to be doing that in the coming years. And all of those things are going to be the key, because shelters are not the answer. They're just part of the equation, but the answer is permanent housing.
I couldn't agree more with you, Sandra. And so just want to reinforce that. We know that housing is what solves homelessness. I would love to hear, Terri, I'll go to you next. Is there anything that's been happening in your community that you think is going to have some long-lasting changes, with some of the additional funding that came down to the community?
We were in an interesting position. We had just accepted a proposal for a replacement shelter for our current Link shelter right when COVID hit. And so we were in a great position where we were able to go back to the provider and say, okay, gosh, this might be here for a while. You have the opportunity to redesign the shelter for us. So it will be a great shelter. We're able to take advantage of many things. They're going to be looking at putting some touchless faucets and things like that in there, and upgrading their air filters, and using materials inside the shelter that are less susceptible to germs, and space those people apart by putting some clear protective barriers in between some of the beds. So that is something that is going to, this has resulted in something that's going to be sticking with us for quite a long time. We definitely have seen a real increase in individuals who are interested in donating, be it food or masks or helping out. There's just been a real renewed interest in donating, as well as the interest in the shelter is temporary and that we have, permanent housing is definitely the answer. Santa Ana is excited that we have a new 56 unit facility that's going to be opening up, a permanent supportive housing apartment complex that's going to be opening up towards the end of the year. And that's like a great project and is showing that, shelter is temporary, but, housing, permanent housing is the answer. And this comes right on the heels of opening up our 75 unit Veterans Village, now renamed to Heroes Landing for veterans in the city. So we are definitely looking at both sides of the sheltering and the permanent housing.
That's wonderful news. Thank you so much for that update, Terri. Kellee, how about in Fullerton? What's been happening with you that you think is going to have kind of long-lasting changes around how homelessness is being addressed in your city?
Well, for us, we're part of the North SPA. And so I think we have all come together, 13 cities. We've opened up 2 shelters this year alone for 250 beds. And then Fullerton opened its first shelter navigation center with recuperative care just last week, actually. And luckily it is air conditioned. So we also put up one of our city owned parcels for affordable housing, and we're accepting RFPs. So we do know that housing is the answer, and we really are looking at how we can help and provide land to developers to get, very affordable units.
That's wonderful news to hear that there's a potential for an affordable housing project coming online in Fullerton. That makes me very happy to hear. And congratulations on the opening of the new shelter. Can you share just a little bit more about that shelter? How many beds are there? How's it being run?
It's 60 beds for the recuperative care side, and upstairs will be a full medical complex, clinical from dental to eye, it's kind of impressive. It's amazing that we were able to do this in three and a half months from, starting renovation and ending and opening. So there's 90 beds for the navigation center. So we're really excited about that. We're excited about the fact that it's 25,000 square feet, plenty of room. Since we did open it during this pandemic, we did learn about putting up, plexiglass and making sure we protected all of our residents there. So the key is having, enough space to do the case management and bringing in the county and our partners to all work together to use this shelter as a, just a path to housing. But it's great when we have our grand opening. I can't wait for everybody to visit it because it's great mural on the wall, and it just really is nice. I think we learned a lot from Anaheim and Santa Ana, so I have to, talk about how both of those really helped us do so much better because they are the leaders.
Well, it's been really incredible to hear from each of you, from your unique perspectives and your unique communities, but also to just hear how you've been able to learn from each other and to work together to help address homelessness here. We have a couple of minutes here to spare, so I'll just sort of throw out, is there anything that any of you would like people to know that we haven't covered yet, just about your city on homelessness and COVID?
I think for Anaheim, the biggest accomplishment we've had is since 2016, we've seen a decrease in our unsheltered homeless on the streets by a couple hundred, which is huge. It shows that, it's slow, but it's starting to work. We had almost 800 unsheltered in this last point in time count. We had 694, but it is low and slow. And I think more funding put towards these housing projects is going to really start to open up. But I think it's important to know and always celebrate successes. We had encampments all over our parks, and we just don't see that anymore. We have over 300 people in our shelters on a regular basis. And Salvation Army 1 month got 10 people into housing. And so just constantly celebrating the good stuff and really educating and awareness, I think, is huge. And one of the keys is knowing who your population is, doing a census count, not just a point in time, but a census. We really learned a lot on how many veterans we have, how many youth we have, how many seniors. And that's when we were able to really partner up our housing projects and go for a lot more grants and stuff. So I think that's a huge key takeaway as well.
I would say similar things going on in Santa Ana. We are absolutely celebrating all of our successes. We have received a fair amount of CARES dollars and are putting those to good use. I see also that I see creative, innovative ideas that are coming down the pipeline, and partnerships between cities and counties and nonprofits, everyone working together. I think that there's a renewed sense of housing individuals, and I think that Project Room Key and then the Project Tool Belt and Project Home Key are all leading the path, and I think that there's a lot of positive housing and opportunities for our populations that are out there.
For Fullerton, I would say partnerships with our faith-based groups, our nonprofit groups, and just really increasing our partnerships has been great throughout this. And also working with different nonprofits, Illumination Foundation, Mercy House, CityNet, it's Pathways of Hope, and you know, everything that, you know, we're moving forward on with housing on our churches by right. That's a great overlay zone we'll be doing this next month.
That sounds very exciting. We may
Yes.
have to do another community chat on that.
Yes.
Well, this does bring us to the end of our time together today, but I do want to say a huge thank you to our guest speakers. This was really informative, and it really was, I said it before, but it was really great to hear what's been happening in each of your communities. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. We will be continuing our community chat series. The next one will be on September 10th, and we're going to be looking at women experiencing homelessness and also issues of domestic violence as well. So I'd encourage you to look out for more information on that. And again, just a huge thank you to everybody for participating, and for those of you who joined in and sent us questions to help create a really good discussion today. Thank you so much.